You might have seen in some previous videos the tool head holder that I have on the back of my workspace, on my workbench. I try to keep everything nice and tight and consolidated, and I'm going to be making a new one. I got 3 more tool heads that I'm going to be adding to it. So I'm going to be making this one a little bigger than the old one I have, with another spacing for expansion if I get another tool head sometime in the future. And this is relatively cheap. You don't need much material for this. I got a 4x4. This one happens to be pressure treated. You don't need a pressure treated 4x4, but a 4x4 works pretty good. This is from a shed that I ripped down, so that was free. And you're going to need either all thread that is a 1/2 inch or just some lag bolts. You get these from hardware store. I'm adding 3 tool heads, so I need to get 3 lag bolts. You don't need this top part. We're going to be cutting that off later with a grinder. Space comes at a premium on your workbench. So like I said, I try to keep everything nice and tight and consolidated. All my tool heads are nice and in order, and all the parts that are needed with those tool heads I keep on this 4x4 also. Tools you're going to need: a drill, a pencil, tape measure, a couple drill bits, maybe something like either an 1/8 inch or 3/16, and then a 7/16 drill bit also. You're going to need these bolts. You're going to need the nuts that screw on the bolts. So whatever you grab, make sure you grab the equal amount of nuts for the bolts. And you might need a grinder. If you can't get these in all thread, if you can get these pre-cut, awesome, to like 2.5 or 3 inches, great. You'll skip the step of having to cut the heads off. So we'll get to it. 4x4. I started already, and I thought, let me stop and just make a quick video. These Dillon 550 tool heads are 3 inches in width. So what I did was I come in 1.5 inches from the end of the 4x4, make a mark, and then I go either 3 3/16 or 3 1/4 inches from center to center. That's going to leave, depending on what you do, if you do 3 1/4 inches, you're going to leave a 1/4 inch space in between each tool head. You mark that right down the 4x4 till you get to the end, or however many tool heads that you have. And then at the very end of the 4x4, just cut it off so you have 1.5 inches left at the end. Make a center line. You should probably do that first. A little bit of glare I can see you getting in the camera. Make a center line along the 4x4, right on the top. That's where we're going to be drilling for the bolts or your all thread. Along the front here, I like to put the shell plates. The shell plates that get used in the press. I like to put them right on the front. And the place buttons, they call these buttons. These are going to go up here also. Now a lot of the buttons and a lot of the shell plates get used interchangeably, such as the 357 SIG and the 40 Smith & Wesson. It's going to be the same button, same shell plate. I only try to keep one shell plate and one set of buttons on here at a time, just to avoid confusion. You don't need extra shell plates. You can only put one shell plate at a time in your press anyway, just to avoid extra confusion. So I'll walk you through this. We have the center line. We have them spaced out. These are spaced out at 3 1/16. So I'm sorry, 3 3/16. So I said should have 3/16 of space in between each one. I'm going to get to drilling pilot holes for all these. I have a 3/16 bit on here. I'm going to drill the pilot holes. pilot holes are done, I'm going to switch bits and put a 7/16 bit into the drill. Now we're going to drill down into those about 2 inches. Now we're done with drilling out the holes for where the bolts are going to go, or the all thread. We're going to tip this over. We're going to work on the front. There's only, out of all these calibers that are going here, there's only 5 different shell holders that I use. There's only 5 different shell holders and only 3 sets of buttons that I use with all this. So what I'll do now is just mark out for where the shell holders are going to go. Each shell holder is, I forget the measurement, about 2 1/4 in diameter. What I'm going to do is, I don't want the thing sitting on the ground. I'm going to go about, let's say, we'll just go 2 1/4, make it simple. 2 1/4 up, mark the other end, 2 1/4, make a nice straight line. Got a 4-foot level here, just using as a straight edge. And only gonna make 5 places for these. So I'm not gonna draw the line the whole way. The first 2 places over here are gonna be for the trim attachments. So I'm not gonna put them there. What I'll do is, I'm just going to eyeball where these holes are up top, to the center, down here. I'll say there, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's going to be for later. All I'm going to do is put a screw in each one of those. We got those 5 attachments. Now the buttons, we have 3 sets of buttons. The button I'm going to put up top, and I'm just going to use the next 3 spaces right here. I'm just going to eyeball these sort of centered on where one of the spaces are, and close to the edge, about a 1/2 inch in from the edge of the 4x4. I'm going to switch back to the 3/16 bit, and I'm going to drill those holes for the buttons. These don't have to be super deep. Just for the buttons. Now we have our buttons drilled out and the holes drilled out. You could bang the 4x4 on the ground, just get the sawdust out of the holes. Let's say the drill dust. Good, now we're ready. What I'm going to do, since I bought 3 new bolts because I'm adding 3 spaces, I removed all the other ones from, this is what they look like, from the other tool head holder. These 3 right now, I'm going to remove the top part of the bolt. with a grinder. Put on safety glasses, grab a bolt with a pair of pliers. Don't do this near your gunpowder. Now we're back at the bench. We have our bolts that we cut. You're going to take 2 nuts, and on the factory end, the end that you didn't cut is the cut end, is the factory end. Put 2 nuts on there. Screw one down about that far. The next one, put on there so the nut is sticking up past the threads. You're going to be hammering down on this nut. You don't want to be hammering down on the threads in case you ever need to remove this nut. You may be able to remove the nut off of the cut end, but sometimes it gets stuck on there, so you just keep it on the factory end. Now we can start hammering these down into our wood. We're going to get it started just like that. You're going to grab a wrench, 3/4 inch wrench, go to the top nut, and you can start screwing these down into the wood. You may have to hammer and screw at the same time. Once you have it hammered in and screwed in, you're going to leave about 1.5 inches to 2 inches sticking up. You should probably just have 2 inches sticking up. I might have screwed this one in a little too deep. We'll see. We can check that out right now. What you're going to do is, now that you have 2 nuts on there, remove the top one, and you can check the height. I'll leave the lower nut on there. Put your tool head on there. You know what? That is actually a great height. The height you're looking at is, you want to make sure your decapping pin isn't touching the wood. This is set. Top of this bolt is 1.5 inches. I'm going to back it out and make them set at 2 inches. That way a little more grabs in the hole on the tool head. Two inches is a good height to leave your bolt sticking up out of the wood. So we're going to do that to the rest of these. When you're hammering them down, try to hammer them down plumb, straight up and down, not crooked, side to side, leaning. Now you got all your all thread or bolts hammered in and your nuts on there. We're going to go back to our 5 marks and just put in 5 screws. These are going to be for the shell plates. Don't put them all the way in, leave them sticking out. 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. Now we're going to put all of our tools away and clean off the workbench. Now you're going to pick out a spot, screw the nut down. Put a tool head on there. Make sure the decapping pin isn't hitting the wood. Looks like we go a little bit lower. There you go. There you go. You're going to do that for all the rest of them. This is what it looks like when it's done. They're all nice and organized. Everything is within reach. I don't have to go searching for stuff in boxes. One other tip on each one, obviously have the caliber and then exactly what's going to be needed in the Dillon press and in the lead press, such as 545x39, what shell plate to use, what button to use, what funnel to use, and when we go over to the lead press, what size shell holder over there. That's it.